So this thing just rolls. So we're just going to go right into it.
Cool.
So how we got introduced was I was telling you about that moment in life where, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, one of the statistically most, I would say, poorest places in the United States. And we didn't do a lot of fancy stuff growing up. I mean, I think our nice dinner was like Red Lobster. Shout out to Red Lobster. They're not doing very well, but shout out to them.
Great biscuit.
Great race. But I remember, when we were trying to get fancy, me and my sister, we would order a Shirley Temple. That was like our thing. And I probably had forgotten about it until we got talking. And then all of a sudden, like a lot of these memories rushed back into my mind, which I assume was the intention behind all of that. And I know we talked about this, but I'd love to get the sense of like, where did the inspiration come from to start the brand?
Yeah, so I think, we all have that story, right? Where I first became aware of the concept is I was just cruising TikTok like any normal guy in their 40s and saw this tribe of young women who were super passionate about a cocktail. And, I've been around long enough to see, that's just such rare air where people like are identifying as a personality almost around the beverage that they've chosen. And they kind of get into a character when they drink it, and then it influences their fashion and their passions. And, they wear red when they do it. And I was like, oh my God, that is one of the most fertile things I've seen. Kind of with this understanding of like beverage is such an emotional space. I mean, for the most part, we're all selling commodities that have very little distinction around them for the most part. And it was for the first time, I was like, wow, you could really build a universe around a specific call drink cocktail, the Dirty Shirley. And as you kind of talked about your own personal experience with the Shirley Temple, it just validated kind of the concept because it's the most salient beverage experience that probably we have as Americans in this country. And we all have a positive memory around it because it was a celebration, or it was the first time we felt included. Like my story was going to a Chinese restaurant with my parents on New Year's. Everyone was drinking cocktails out of Buddhas and, big cats and things. And here I was with my Shirley Temple. It showed up, it was red, it had a garnish, and I was allowed to have it. And so I remember the way it made me feel, and I felt included for the first time. And I don't think that desire changes.
Yeah.
As we grow older, we want to feel included, and we want to go back to those memories. So we kind of joke from a positioning statement as we move people from childhood to adulthood, and we move adults back to simpler times because we get to harvest that memory up. But adults are not going out and ordering Shirley Temples. It's inappropriate to do that. So when we reconcepted this thing, let's take a modern take. We'll create a modern soda. We'll take out the red dye, shout out to RFK on that. Yeah. And we'll kind of reinvent it for a modern consumer and kind of make it grow up a little bit. And so, we always say, our external communications, the drink you grew up with, grew up too.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a sidebar here because I'm thinking about, the cherry juice. So I cut my teeth in sports nutrition, and just like the emergence of cherry juice being this like functional beverage for recovery and a lot of these aspects of it. And recently I was getting into a conversation with somebody, and we were remembering, I don't know if you remember that, the Vizzy hard seltzer, where they were making health claims on certain things, and then they got in trouble, and there's all this kind of stuff
vitamins
going on.
In their alcohol.
And I think about like how the blurring of lines of categories of like, with this drink, I mean, you can't make health claims because there's rules for that, but like arguably there is, or there could be. And I'm wondering when, these regulatory agencies realize like the old rules maybe need to be evolving a little bit. Yeah, you wouldn't want to claim that this is going to give somebody these, but is it healthier than other things? Maybe. I don't know.
Got a lot of booze in it, so I'd say that negates that negates any of the health
I think
benefits.
That's the actual rule on that, but it's like
I would say it's less bad than a lot of stuff on the market. Again, the cherry juice, also makes you sleepy. So we hope we're not putting consumers to sleep on this. But hey, it's a lot better than, we don't use corn syrup or non-nutritive sweeteners that kind of taste funky to keep sugar count down. I mean, it's a 4-ingredient product, and I think the simplicity of the product design and the stability of it, just lend itself to consumers saying, hey, this is something that when I'm looking for better options, but I also want to be indulgent, is like a happy medium to that. And now I think we claim more about what it doesn't have than what it does when we choose to market the attributes of the product. We also kind of know from data that consumers don't really care when it comes to booze. Like they want it to be fun, they want it to be bold in flavor now, they want ABV, and they want value. And I think if you deliver those four things in the alcohol space, you're off to a good start. I think a lot of stuff just isn't that fun, and it tends to be a fast follower of something like going in the category. And essentially, when you're fast following, you have real no identity. You're just trying to be a shadow.
Let's talk about brand identity, or just like the overall look, feel. Like you obviously put a lot of time and effort into that it's very intentional. What is kind of the background for you that you have those chops to do this?
Worked for great companies like Heineken in the marketing department, Pernod in the trade marketing department. Worked at ZX Ventures and AB InBev on the e-commerce group, global e-commerce. Saw a lot of brands run through that, and I just ended up working for Milestone Brands with Dulce Vita and a few other brands underneath that, and then was head of marketing over at Waterloo. And really what identified at Waterloo, which was most significant, is that consumers are loyal to flavor.
Yeah.
Right. They have a benchmark flavor in their mindset, and they stay loyal to it. So you can be the best lime in the market, but if consumers are anchored on like a core lime, you're not moving them off of it. So it's just better to be incremental to the category. From a brand design standpoint, we chose to be super intentional and just be bold. Right. Let's keep away from esoteric designs. Dirty Shirley itself, because it kind of says what it is, it just needs to say that, right? Really big and bold. It's simple, stupid. Consumer at shelf is really, RTD has become very complicated.
Yeah.
So let's just tell them what they are and who we are and what's in it really quickly. And we, on a 4-second read, you got it.
Yeah.
So we decided to do that. And then stylistically, we said, hey, let's pick two celebrity archetypes to design against. So we picked Lana Del Rey and Marilyn Monroe and said, let's smash those together and have a baby, and let's create something vintage and modern.
I could see that. How's the, you talking about the baked in kind of community on TikTok, introducing this to them, have they embraced it? And like, has that been a part of the kind of identity, as like bringing that together? Has it been able to, like, people are like, wow, this is exactly what we were doing ourselves and we were asking for?
Yeah, it was kind of like, virality is great, and take it when you can get it. And it's great validation. It's not a strategy in our opinion, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But it gives you great feedback early, and kind of what we saw is from consumers is, we've been waiting for this. This is something we want.
Yeah.
With millions of responses over, the last like year and a half on the brand. So it's been really great to see that tribe come to life. And then, that tribe also start to grow, right? Because what we're essentially doing is, like most spirit companies try to do, is we're trying to evangelize a cocktail.
Yeah.
And be very focused about, Dirty Shirley as a cocktail, and as a flavor, and as a brand. And that's the moat we're really taking ownership of and building that out.
Where do you see kind of the brand within the kind of cultural intersections? Like, is this going to live? We talk about Waterloo, like they did a lot with the music industry, a lot of that kind of stuff. I think being based in Austin, it's a natural extension with ACL and those types of things. Do you see that as a, kind of moving into these kind of directions?
Yeah, there's a moment in time where I think we'll explore that. As a small stage company that's scaling financially, you've got to be, have some self-control on that before you go wide. But what we do understand about this brand in such a short period of time is that we index really well with cosmetics, with fashion, with beauty.
Yeah, I'd love to see that kind of integrated in there.
We did a partnership with Haagen-Dazs on a Dirty Dazs,
awesome.
which was, an ice cream float program we did for social media. And we're just finding that like Kojun, a coconut yogurt company came to us and was like, this is perfect for, these people. So when we look at the female-centric brand community, we tend to tie in really, really well and really organically to where it like fits. Even skincare with Vacation, as a skincare brand, we fit right in. They have a whipped cream, skincare product for sunscreen, and we kind of stylistically fit right with it. And then everything on the planet right now seems to be cherry coated. So we're just fitting into the zeitgeist of kind of current trends, and red's popping, and we kind of borrow a little Coca-Cola DNA in red and white, which makes you feel good when you see it. So we're leveraging, a lot of like different things. But, I think culturally, this is a cultural phenomenon that we think is going to continue to grow for some time. And again, and booze is about making people have fun and be happy. And this brings back all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we were talking yesterday about a little bit of the kind of platform extensions and like how you can kind of, this brand can live in a number of different forms and factors, and like it was really exciting. I don't know if any of those things are out there yet, but like just even getting behind the scenes on some of that stuff, like I could see the natural jump, and I saw, a customer would love this, or a customer would love that. A customer, like I could see the next couple of years of this all kind of working together in a way that kind of makes sense. So I'm super excited to see this all kind of roll out.
Yeah. I won't go into too much depth on that in short cards, but it's really rare, over years to see brands be able to kind of expand organically into different form factors and penetrate different channels and occasions based on pack type, but still stay really true and authentic to kind of your core value proposition. And I think this brand is really rare in that it does have the ability to have a lot of range. And we're excited about some of this stuff because I think it penetrates different occasions and, just expands on different factors within the ready-to-drink arena from all aspects, which we're fired up about.
What do you think about the flip it more towards the general market? There's obviously been an explosion of RTD cocktails. It's, I think, arguably that market as a whole learned from the mistakes or the missteps of the hard seltzer world. I think that, but there's still, I think every week I see dozens of these new ones coming out every day, and it's like some are great, some are not so great. How do you get through the noise? Like, because I don't think we're anywhere near the peak yet. I think there's still, constantly these things coming out, and it's tough sometimes. I mean, I talked about, my background of sports nutrition and supplements. Like that's the arguably the Coliseum, the low barriers of entry. Like, there's so many of them. So I understand that space very well, but I always wonder how, founders think about that, especially in, this is arguably still a nascent space. I still think, it's got a lot of run left in it. So there's still going to be a lot of competitors that are going to be jumping in, but like, how do you think about, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like, how do you use that to your advantage?
Good and bad. Again, innovation in our industry and alcohol has been pretty slow, if you ask me. Like great innovation, right? Especially from kind of large suppliers, they've really stagnated on like really cool, new, interesting offerings. So I think young suppliers coming in with different perspectives is really healthy for the industry, and it really helps us see what works and what doesn't. Casualties along the way are really hard to see, but it really exposes kind of what macro trends could be. So if you're paying attention, and kind of what we saw kind of over the last 4 years of RTD is it was a lot of follow the leader, which created a super long tail, and most of those partners or those brands are no longer with us. We see a lot of people chasing kind of big segments like tea and vodka. I mean, AB's throwing their hat in the arena, so now you have so many varieties of vodka tea, which essentially, again, commoditized kind of the tea space. So how many players and how many positions are available at shelf? So our logic and our advice to everybody is be really distinct in your category and kind of own your space. And as we talk about segmentation within RTD, and it really needs to be disrupted and looked at through a different lens. And as the advice that I give, a buyer is, if you're going to do a door of RTDs, look at it like a cocktail menu.
Yes.
And, we want to be the Dirty Shirley brand on your
Curate
cocktail
the best,
menu.
make that, I mean,
You don't need 5 margaritas. How many sparkling tequilas are you going to carry? How many teas are you going to carry? But really understand kind of the cocktails that resonate at scale with your consumer target, and run with those. I mean, creating kind of new cocktails and trying to market those, to a population that has a very low awareness on cocktails is super challenging.
Yeah.
They have like a longer road, I think, in front of them, but picking big, addressable, fun, cocktails out there and being a brand around that. Long drink's an incredible example of, they picked a European cocktail trend that emulated a lot of what America already loved around a Paloma, but with gin, with grapefruit soda.
Yep.
And that was a flavor that was already accepted. And they just really focused on their story and, what they had to offer, and a great product. And look at what they're doing. Look at Cutwater, who goes right down the middle with very classic cocktail flavors, and expands from there. On the Rocks. So it's the greatest hits moment right now. Seems to be working. Classic cocktails and common themes there. And I think over time that'll lend itself for more disruptive innovation in the category. But I think this game is still so young that it's really about big meaty ideas. And so if you can be first to market on a big meaty idea, which is
what you guys are,
how many are left out there, then it's great. Then run. If you're trying to be really esoteric, expect slower growth. If you're trying to compete with a large company, that's a pretty dangerous arena.
Better be patient.
To go into, because you really need to have a value proposition that beats those guys. Because again, it's about anchoring, right? Everybody's anchored on, Twisted Tea is, from a malt perspective, can't beat them. Like they're top of the hill. Someone's really got to create something unique to kind of unseat them. And then, looks like Surfside's out for, a victory lap in kind of that segment, even though High Noon's chasing, and they'll give them a good run for their money. And then now AB wants it. So, so now you have a three-headed monster kind of chasing that AB. So we'll see how that shakes out. And then Lemonade's back.
Yeah. That
was 3 years ago. And now it's, now Lemonade's back. So, again, big. When you look at top beverages, it's just like, here's the top beverages in the U.S. Let's just add alcohol to them, and that's so easy for the consumer to kind of find value in. Yeah, because it's just a convenient solution to something they're probably already doing.
You know what I saw recently? This is one of those missed opportunities. When you look back in your life and you joke. I always drank Gatorade and vodka, and I used to call it Faderade, and people would always laugh. But now you're seeing these like hydration drinks, or these like
the Borg
that are like it's like, and I think this is 15, 20 years ago. So it's funny that I was like, if I just was smart enough back then to do it, but obviously I was drinking too much of that, and I wasn't thinking about business ideas. That was my problem.
Somebody's after it, right? Light Strike with, and there was a small brand out of Connecticut that had a play at it as well.
Now all of a sudden it's coming, and I'm like, I would have been too early anyways. It wouldn't have happened. So
it's like, So I think we'll start to see more kind of nutritive ingredients start to get introduced. It's always interesting. I saw a concept the other day about, anti-hangover relief, like involved in the brand or mixed into the brand as well, which is an interesting value proposition to consumers. And that may, become a common ingredient over time, just to help people feel better and mitigate some of those headlines around alcohol is bad for you. Well, alcohol is bad for you, but it's really fun, so people enjoy it. So, it's fun, accessible, and we're all classically conditioned from a young age, and our bodies are ready for it. Essentially, so I don't think alcohol's going anywhere.
No, I'm definitely not of the crowd that thinks it's going away anytime soon. I think that's overblown. I definitely think that people don't understand the overall place that it has. I think in cultures and just like societal norms. I think it's though it might retract tiny bits over long periods of time, and if we look at back maybe 50 years, but anytime soon, it's not something to be all that concerned about.
Well, and I think strategics have really failed to reset their brands to be relevant to younger consumers. And again, it's like what's our bonus this year, right? But really, when they look at consumers, these larger brands don't seem that attractive to younger, the young millennial and Gen Z brands. So there's a structural issue that could present itself. And that's why innovation, is so important kind of on this RTD front, because, brands like Beatbox and, Buzzballs, they bring new consumers to the space, from a recruitment to alcohol sector. So RTD is going to play such a critical role in getting people into alcohol, because the flavors are familiar and they're not complicated, right? Beer is complicated. Making a cocktail is super complicated to consumer. Wine seems to be boring and unapproachable. So RTD, like the industry, really needs to kind of focus on it, because that,
huge
if they
opportunity.
don't, what if you don't is really the question. Is how do we get new consumers to enjoy the category in a really fun way? And they're just not resonating with legacy brands the same way. So strategics really need to pay attention to kind of these incumbent brands. And it's no different than the macaroni and cheese aisle in grocery or mayo with kind of these new brands who have repositioned to be super fun, and Poor Craft Foods and those guys. But it's not just alcohol, it's the entire food and beverage industry is just getting overhauled with more innovative, better for you, consciously better ingredient offerings and fun, exciting new brands for a new generation. And we're just in a full-on overhaul.
Yeah, I think we're all moving towards this like four-way intersection of like taste, convenience, nutrition, and a little bit of functionality, but not maybe so much in an alcohol category, but it's still towards more nutritious, like you said, higher quality. Obviously, convenience with the RTD side of things. People don't want to learn how to be a mixologist. A lot of times, it's complicated. It's tough to make something great.
I just don't think they're interested in it. And honestly, I think they just want everything. Like, this is an on-demand generation, and like everything's delivered, and it's awesome. Like, I enjoy the same fruits. I just think they're used to having it all, just ready for them. Like, everything's ready to pick up or be delivered. And is making a cocktail at home really fun? Like, having to buy 5 or 6 ingredients for one occasion that you make one drink for? Or is it like, I can have a mini bar waiting for me in my fridge and just like grab what I want when I want it, and they stay fresh and convenient and portable, and I can drag them around with me, and they're fun at parties, and having a nice potpourri of different like drinks in a cooler is like super fun. Or it used to just be like, here's a beer, here's a wine, and here's vodka on the counter. Vodka, gin, and then you'd have like Coke and Sprite mixers for everybody.
Well, anytime you can end a podcast on potpourri, I think that's it.
Love a good potpourri reference.
Good potpourri.
Yeah.
Well,
try to fit it into every interview.
Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate the conversation.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.